Hello and welcome to another episode of Parker's Previews powered by The Hammer. This is a show where I'm going to use data, statistics, advanced analytics to talk through some of the best bets of the week to help us be better consumers of college football content and to be smarter investors as we approach games, as we approach bets this upcoming slate. Got a really good slate of games this week. Really excited about these three. Before I dive into this first one, James Madison and App State, we'll make sure that I shout out. Make sure you follow and subscribe on YouTube. That really helps us make sure you can get the videos and that people who want to see them can find them. Follow Parker's Previews on Twitter and me, of course, at Stats of War on Twitter, where we're posting games, posting stats and graphs and content all week long. Finally, I will note for those of you who are auditorially inclined as opposed to just visually, you can get this in podcast format wherever you get your podcasts and hear my best bets of the week as well over on that preview. I believe if you just search Parker's Previews on Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever, it'll come up. And if you have problems with that, you can always DM Parker's Previews and someone will get you straightened out. We'll tweet out a link as well. But enough with the housekeeping. Let's talk about a really fun game between two really fun group of five schools this week. James Madison travels to App State. And this line right now has James Madison, App State favored by 7.5. I'm seeing it with a total of 59, 59.5, 58, seeing that a couple places right in there. I think currently 58 is where I'm seeing it best. A really fun matchup here. I think that I have about a 65% chance for App State to win this game outright. But with, about a 3.5 point margin projected here, almost a 60% chance for James Madison to cover. That's one of my better bets of the week. I really like these two teams. I think they both had really fun stories. James Madison, of course, moving up to FBS from FCS after just an extremely productive run there. They can only play spoiler this year, not qualifying for postseason, but they blew the doors off of Middle Tennessee State in their first game, 44-7. And then against Norfolk State, another FCS opponent, just absolutely blew them out of the water as well. One of their highlights this season has been Colorado State transfer Todd Centillo. He's completing 66% of his passes, 8.9 yards per attempt on an 11.5% average depth of target. He's averaging an 80% adjusted completion. That's, throwaway and drop adjusted completion. He has no turnover worthy plays in 50 attempts and has only been sacked twice despite having 14 pressures. So really impressive play from Todd Centillo. Good quarterback play will take you quite a long way. On the flip side, you have App State, who has had maybe one of the most emotionally charged 3-game starts to a season out of anyone in quite a while. They lose 63-61 in a game they had multiple opportunities to win, 40 points in the fourth quarter, and just couldn't seal the deal against North Carolina. Then they go to Kyle Field, win 17-14, running almost twice the number of plays as Texas A&M. And most impressively holding an SEC offense to 14 total points. 7 of those, I believe, came from a kick return as well. So really impressive defensive performance, despite some of the underlying metrics not liking them as much. They held that SEC school to low points. And then against Troy last week, they win on a Hail Mary and host game day, just an absolute banner moment for college football. Just a lot of fun there. So the way these match up, and one of the reasons I'm interested in this game is there is a fun kind of adjustment problem of taking James Madison and preseason priors, moving from FCS to FBS, and then kind of dialing in what App State's offense and defense are going to look like through this kind of weird, volatile 3-game stretch. So my official play here is going to be James Madison plus 7.5. I think that's too many points. I would take this up to 6.5 as well. James Madison has, the long and short of it is that James and Madison has a really good passing offense. They've really been able to get the ball downfield. And App State's defense is just not very good, especially against the pass. Let's dive into the specifics of the matchup, and I'll kind of defend that position. But want to make sure I'm going with James Madison here. So overall, I have James Madison at second in raw EPA margin. Of course, they haven't played as strong of opponents as App State, so we'll adjust that a little bit. But raw numbers really efficient. App State's about 50th. and adjusting for opponent, that's going to be a little bit better because they have played North Carolina. They have played Texas A&M. On offense, James Madison, I have them about 22nd. App State's defense, 109th in EPA per play. Remember, EPA per play is expected points added. It takes yards to points in context to help us better understand the value of a play. So 109, it's a really bad combination of success and explosiveness there. And on defense, James Madison has really just not given up anything at all to some really bad opponents. Almost 3/4 of a point in negative value of play for opposing offenses. App State's offense with Chase Bryce has been pretty feisty. With 0.196 EPA per play is 25th in the nation. So pretty good there. And looking at net points per drive before we dive into the specifics of the unit, James Madison giving up absolutely nothing and averaging 4.69 points per drive. Again, net points per drive is just touchdowns and the value of the attempted field goal. So there's a 66% chance you make the field goal, you get 2 points roughly, and whether you make it or not. So kind of evaluating efficiency as opposed to whether a kicker makes a kick or not. And James Madison, very, very efficient. App State, pretty good on offense, 3.5 points per drive, nothing to sneeze at, but 3.18 on defense is very bad. Really got an efficiency problem in terms of allowing scores. A lot of that's driven up by that NC State game, by that North Carolina game. But man, they really do seem to be struggling on the defensive side of the ball. App State, very, very run heavy. They're running 59.8% rush rate over expected. That's 95th slowest in the country. Slow meaning rush heavy. And then on the other side of things, really balanced from James Madison, 50% rush rate over expected. A little bit faster. Centillo's throwing the ball pretty well, but a pretty balanced attack that's pass heavy. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to come out playing fast as well. Equal ratio, really, really good game control for James Madison, third. And App State, despite some defensive woes, still some good game control, controlling 56.7% of those quality possessions. So App State's a little bit more balanced with some really, really poor drive efficiency on defense, but that offense is still pretty good with that. Chase Bryce and Todd Centillo here. We're going to see two quarterbacks who are in their 6th year of eligibility, I think. So a lot of experience at the quarterback position that'll really elevate a team. Before we get into the specifics of offense and defense, I will note the talent advantage here is not super lopsided. James Madison was bringing in dudes. But App State has been a high-functioning FBS program, and the Sun Belt has decided to step up above the average FCS competition. And so especially in the trenches, you would start to think that maybe App State's offensive and defensive lines might give a little bit of trouble to James Madison. But I think, again, with passing offense, I really like what James Madison's able to do here. And I think that you could factor in a little bit of an emotional letdown for App State and see a recipe where James Madison can move the ball against this App State offense, or defense rather, and then the App State offense will have some trouble kind of keeping up. So on offense for James Madison, really, really, really successful. So 9th in success rate, 20th in the passing, 9th in rushing, not as explosive as they are successful. So they're really just moving the ball consistently. And pushing the ball, not super pushing the ball downfield in terms of explosiveness. They're creating a quality possession on 85.7% of their drives. That's 4th in the nation. That's excellent. And they're finishing at just an absurd rate of 5.25. Again, more touchdowns than anything when they cross your 40-yard line. App State's defense, 89th against the pass, 118th versus the rush, allowing almost a 1/4 point of explosiveness a play on rushing. If you look at their success rate, their passing success rate is much worse than their EPA per pass. That makes me worried for App State because James Madison has not been these kind of bomb downfield passing plays. If you look at Todd Centillo's downfield passing, he really, really has been... as this loads, I know this is great TV. Here we go. He's only 26% of his passes have been downfield, but only 7 completions there. They're going to find that big play, but they also want to find just a lot of consistency in the air game. App State has really allowed a lot of success. That's going to free up that deep game. So this kind of counter strike is going to benefit James Madison's passing game. App State, not too bad. I mean, pretty mediocre, but again, against some good competition and allowing quality possessions, but they're they're allowing teams to score really, really well. Aside from Texas A&M, basically anyone who wanted to score on a quality possession against App State did. James Madison, huge benefit from field position because they've played some pretty poor opponents, and App State not doing great, not doing poorly in terms of starting field position drives. They're 62nd in starting field position. One thing to look at that's a pretty big split, James Madison has been really great at third and fourth down success, but they've also been pretty consistent on early downs. App State is almost the exact opposite of, or the exact mirror of that. They're 76th on early downs EPA, and they're 118th on third and fourth down success. So James Madison has been really good at extending drives on third down. App State has been really bad at stopping drives on third down. So from kind of the James Madison offense to the App State defensive side of things, I'm looking at James Madison's success rate in the passing game, that consistency over and over again, opening some of those big plays downfield. I'm looking at James Madison's finishing ability against App State's defense at points per echo. James Madison is 29th, App State is 114th. And I'm looking at that third and fourth down success rate. James Madison is 6th, App State is 118th. Those lead me to believe that James Madison is going to put up some points against App State just on the merits. I think they'll be able to keep pace with this App State defense. Let's flip to the other side of the ball. James Madison's numbers on defense have been really good. First in EPA per rush, more than a point per play of negative value, and fourth in EPA per pass. Again, they've played Middle Tennessee State, an FCS opponent, so those aren't going to hold going on. In terms of EPA per pass and EPA per rush for App State, they're actually pretty balanced, both in success rate and in EPA. They're a little bit more explosive than they are successful. 67th in in success rate on offense for App State, and 67th in both passing and rushing success rate, which is kind of funny. Very balanced across the board. Not really a big split between run and pass. They are rushing a lot. That suggests that App State has a pretty good feel on the diminishing returns to their pass game, and they're rushing enough to keep their pass game effective. They're generating quality possessions at a pretty good rate, 18th in the nation, but they're finishing them only 48th in the nation at 4.83. So that's a little bit of a weak spot. They haven't finished drives as well. App State has also not been super great starting field position. They've been 30th, they're 70th starting their own drives at the 30-yard line. So that they're going to be in a hole a little bit. They're going to have to move the ball pretty consistently. That success rate makes me a little bit nervous. Finally, one last split about App State. Again, I'm almost disregarding James Madison's defensive stats just because they played a really bad Middle Tennessee team and an FCS team. App State has a pretty big split on early downs and late downs EPA. So they're 53rd on early downs EPA, and they're 31st on third and fourth down success rate. So they've kind of been able to bail themselves out on third and fourth down success. That to me is a little bit of a red flag for the consistency of this offense. I don't think there's any reason that App State shouldn't score points, but I do wonder how consistently successful they'll be able to be and move the ball here with an offense that's going to be pressing them on the other side of the ball, pressing their defense and kind of making sure that offense keeps pace. I really think that the App State team is a lot more suited to play close games and not play these kind of shootouts. We saw, North Carolina, that was basically all of App State's effort, and they still couldn't get it done at the end there. They had a lot of breaks go their way. And the Texas A&M game, I think, is more the kind of game that App State wants to play. Few points, few possessions, really kind of a grittier game there. But that being said, I really like what James Madison's doing on offense. I think that they're coming out of the gate really hot into FCS. I think the App State has had just an absolute roller coaster of a season to start here. This is an emotional letdown spot as well. So if you can get this, 7.5 for James Madison, I like this all the way down to 6.5 as an official play for James Madison to cover on the road. If you're looking at an over and an under, let's look at the totals here. I'm seeing 59, 58.5, 57.5. I don't have a strong lean. My numbers have this as underneath, but one or two possessions could really throw this away. You've got 55% of the bets are on the under at 59 and 45% are on the over, but 97% of the money is on the over. That's absolutely wild. So not 100% sure that I would take a side on the total here, but I like James Madison to cover. Maybe would be inclined towards an under if it, got up to 60 or 59. So, yeah, a great game here. Really fun group of 5 game and a really good matchup for James Madison's offense to kind of exploit this App State defense, maybe push them a little further than they're comfortable going. Thanks so much for listening. I'll be back this week with a couple more videos, breaking down a couple more games. Make sure you're following, like and subscribe on YouTube, Parker's Previews on Twitter, Stats War on Twitter, the podcast Parker's Previews, wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll see you back next time.